You know, I was telling you about this autobiography I was writing, and you know, about the journey that we've been on together, and at least that's the way I see it. And you know, so I thought it would be nice now if we just took a few moments, and if you've got anything you'd like to tell me about your experiences with any of these songs, or indeed any ELP or King Crimson show you're at, or if you'd like to ask absolutely anything at all, I'd be only too happy to answer. There'll be Andre and Simon there with radio microphones, and you just put your hand up if you want to ask a question, and we'll chat together.
Yep. Have to stand up?
You don't have to.
My age is hard to do.
Me too, yeah.
I just want to say that 1987, I met the woman I'm now married to. And one of the things...
Poor girl.
Oh yeah, you have no idea. One of the first things that brought us together was your music.
Oh, I see.
And we started talking, and we started comparing music, and we both said ELP almost immediately. And
funny.
So when we moved in together, it was interesting because we had one duplicate album. All of the rest of they merged together. We had Tarkus.
It was an omen. It was an omen.
We both had Tarkus.
Yeah.
And every other album, so we completed each other's album collection. So I just wanted to thank you for that very, very much. I've loved your music for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a lovely story. You know, music goes from one soul to the other. That's how I think about it. It passes through the air like a ghost. You can't see it, you know. But it goes from one soul to the other. And there's no greater reward for an artist than to know that you've moved somebody. You know, it's far more important than the money or, you know, the fame. That's the key thing. Next question, where are we? Over there. Andre.
Thank you, Greg.
Pleasure.
Your influence, you say you're humbled because you met Elvis Presley and you played with Ringo Starr and such, but I think everybody in this audience can agree that you've been a great influence to everybody here and across the world. And everything else that you've done. But my question is, what happened to the world's largest stage?
I honestly don't know. You're talking about the one with all the elevators in, is that the thing you were talking about? I honestly don't know. I think Journey bought it from us. I think that's what happened to it. Yeah, so at that time, we had 140 people on the road and 11 tractor trailers. It was an enormous show. And yes, so that's my best recollection. That's what happened to it.
Hey, Greg, how you doing today,
Very well,
my friend? Michael from Horizon Press Company. I interviewed you a few months ago.
Ah, there you go.
How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you.
You look great. You sound even better. I was wondering, when are we going to actually get to see the book?
To see it, right? Well, thank you very much for that question. It was, I've written this, the autobiography comes in 3 volumes, and I'm releasing it as an audio book, basically. And first volume will be available, I think you can get it actually online now, and it will be at the shows very soon. I'm sorry it's not here tonight. The hardback copy will come out just before Christmas. And so you can buy separate volumes if you just want the audio book, but if you want the paper book, then you'll have to wait till then. Okay, next question, Andre.
Howdy.
Hello there.
Loved your music for many years.
Thank you very much.
Your transition from spiritual to the soul thing, I was going to ask you that question. At what point in your career did you realize that your gift actually moved so many people in your audible form of your art form, and the love that is transmitted through your aura? I think it's a beautiful thing, everything you've done over the years. I just want to know when you realized that, at what stage of your life were you in, when you really realized what you were doing, the work that you're doing?
I think it's hard to say, to be honest with you. I kind of was always aware that music moved people because it moved me. But I could tell you of an instance. I actually told this story earlier today to someone, but it's a nice story, and I'll tell it to you. Well, it's a sad story, really, but it just has the. For me, it really brought home how much music can mean to someone. There was one night we were playing in Dresden, in East Germany, and we were playing pictures at an exhibition. It's quite a long piece of music, 20 minutes or more long, our version of it. And I looked down in the front row and I saw a guy that had floods of tears. And I really didn't know what to think. You know, I thought maybe he's on the druggy wuggies. So I just carried on playing. And the music went on and on. And after about 10 minutes had passed, I looked down again, and he was still sobbing away. So I said to the road manager, I said, look, after the show's over, grab him, bring him back into the dressing room, and just have a word with him and see what he's upset about. So I went back, the show finished, I went back, they brought him back, and he came in the room and his eyes were bloodshot. And I said to him, you know, look, it's all right to let music move you, to be moved, but you shouldn't let it upset you like that. And he said to me in this sort of broken English, he said, no, you don't understand. He said, when I was 15 years old, I got hold of a copy of pictures at an exhibition, and the Russians put me in prison for 6 months, and they were very cruel. And when we played it, of course, it all came back to him. And that's when you really realise that how much music can mean to someone. We all take it for granted. We just buy it, feel it, love it. It's great. But for him, he paid a price for that. You know, and that's when it really hit home to me how much, you know, music can mean to someone when they serve a prison sentence just for owning it, you know. Next question.
Hi there, Greg. I went to a very small college in Vermont in 1969, 1970, a place called Goddard College. Had like 1,000 students. For some reason, King Crimson was playing there, and it was supposed to be a dance. Somehow, in our hippie way, we danced.
I'll tell you that. Well, do you want to know what actually happened?
I'd love to.
Okay, here's the story. It was King Crimson's first trip to America, and our manager, the late D. Anthony, God rest his soul, wanted us to play somewhere away from the big cities, so that the reviewers didn't get a chance to steam in on the very first show. So we'd have a chance to play at least one show to warm up before we started playing in the big cities. So he chose this college in Vermont. And, so off we go to the college in Vermont. And I'll never forget, it started, I believe, in LaGuardia Airport. We boarded this plane, which Dee laughingly called Sudden Death Airlines. It was one of those propeller things, and it shook around, you know. Which we'd never, you know, we'd just been on the jets before. We'd never actually experienced the little rubber band thing, you know. So anyway, we eventually got to Vermont, and we came out of the airport, and there were 2 young college students there with estate cars, you know, just regular estate cars. And we said hello, and we, you he said, oh, we're going to take you to the college. So we put our bags in the cars and off we go. And we were driving for some time, I can't remember how long, but quite a long time. And halfway up this mountain or hillside or whatever it was, we noticed a sign that said King Curtis. and it, you know, whatever it was, we just, the only reason we noticed it is because it had the word King in it. You know, so fair enough, he was a soul artist. And we eventually arrived at the college. And I believe it was in like a gymnasium where all the students sat on the floor. Festival seating type of thing. And we were in a dressing room off the side and we could hear them coming in and sitting down and laughing together. They all sat on the floor. And I think at the time we opened up with Schizoid Man with the strobe lights. And as we started playing, Robert used to stare at the audience with as much venom as he could muster. You know? It was his whole thing about Paganini, and it's a long story. I won't bore you with that. But it was it was a pretty aggressive opening. You know, it was far from friendly. It was very intense, and it was very attacking. And 2 or 3 people just got up and ran out. You know, we were told later that they'd taken LSD. I mean, can you imagine thinking you were going to see a soul band? Because that's the band they thought they were going to see. It's King Curtis. What they got was a nightmare. And we ended off with Mars, the God of War. You know, and but, you know, as this gentleman said, a lot of students got into it immediately. They're smart. They heard it was, you know, good music, and they immediately adjusted. But for some, the journey was a bridge too far. You know, they just couldn't take it, and they ran. They literally ran out. So that was the story of Goddard University. And thank you for bringing the question. Quite remarkable, actually, that you should have been there. Well done. Thank you very much. Where are we then? Andre, you're at the back there.
Hello, I'd like to ask the question of
yes.
What influenced the album cover for The Court of the Crimson King?
The story with that was that it was during, we saw the album cover during the making of the album, and the day we saw it, we were actually recording Schizoid Man. And Pete Sinfield, who had written a lot of the lyrics on the album, he told us that he had a friend who was a bit of a graphic artist. And he said he would like to give him a shot doing the album cover. So he said, fair enough, okay. We didn't know anyone else, so that was it. So anyway, this guy turned up. He was a young chap, same age as we were at the time, 20, 21. And he came into the studio just as we'd finished the take of Schizoid Man. So he'd actually never heard anything on the album at all before he did the cover. And he came in the back door. We didn't know who he was at first, but Pete knew him. So Pete said, oh, Barry, come over here quick. So he walks over, and he's under his arm, he's got this parcel, brown paper, it's wrapped in brown paper with string around it. And he takes some scissors out of his pocket, and he cuts the brown paper, and he unwraps it. And he dropped it on the floor. And we were just silent. I mean, you see it, and you just can't believe what you're looking at. We were staring into the face of Schizoid Man. It really was like that. There was no discussion about, is it the right album cover? You know, it was so clearly obvious that that was it. And it was just a staggeringly good cover. And I mean, it's still, if you see it anywhere, it's one of the most recognizable album covers of all time. And thank you very much. But that was the remarkable thing, is that he never heard the song, and yet he painted the face, this screaming face of Schizoid Man. And what made it even more tragic actually, was a few days later, young Barry dropped down dead in the street of a heart attack. And, you know, we never knew really if the faith, you know, carried any sort of foresight or foreboding for him, you know. Just don't know, but that was the strange thing. So all in all, it was a very peculiar and unusual way to arrive at an album cover. But it was the only one that we could have possibly used, and we went ahead and used it. And as I say, it's become now a well-known image. But thank you very much for that question.
Good evening, Greg.
Good evening.
You mentioned the Spectrum, and I just had to let you know. The first time we ever saw you, my wife and I, was when Yes opened up for you guys. Many, many years ago. It was a very memorable concert. The other question I have for you, which is a technical question, is why do you use strictly Gibson acoustic guitars? Being a guitarist myself, it's kind of interesting.
Okay, well, Yes had a pet name for us, which was Henderson, Snake and Charmer. And we used to call them Maybe. But contrary to most people's popular beliefs, we were not at war with each other. We got on very well. In fact, I used to live with Chris Squire, bass player. We used to live together. So we were always mates. So there was never any sort of real rivalry. As for the guitars, Gibson, why Gibson? They make a great guitar, that's why. And they go right back through Les Paul, Elvis. The greats play Gibson, you know, and of course Fender, that's the other great guitar. I've always played, I mean, you've heard the J200, the Gibson J200 tonight, and it's just a wonderfully powerful sound. It can either be very delicate or it can be very powerful. And it's that I think is the wonderful thing about it. It has both properties in one guitar. So that's why Gibson. Thank you very much. Any more questions? One in the back there.
Hi, my question is about what I first perceived as a kind of a non-ELP song. And in terms of moving songs, it's very close to my heart. I'll take it to my grave. It's probably one of my favorite songs of all music. It's Farewell to Arms. And I was wondering if there's any story behind that as to where that kind of dropped out from. I find it very, in terms of a total composition, the lyrics and the music and the whole thing together is just very cohesive, and the message certainly is one of hope.
Yeah. I mean, that really was it. It was a song written by Keith and I. And the lyric really was just about this constant questioning of why people kill each other with weapons. And the fact that it just would be better if that wasn't going on. I mean, I know it's an oversimplification, but perhaps if there was more of that oversimplification and there was less war, then it would be a wonderful thing. And I know we all agree here, but it still goes on. You know, people still do it. And so my little token gesture is to write songs like that, Farewell to Arms. And I believe it, you know, I do believe it. You know, I mean, I understand it's not as simplistic as that, but sooner or later we go one way or the other. We'll either blow the whole place to pieces, or we'll take another turn. I'd rather take the other turn. Okay, last question now. Thanks for that question.
First off, Greg, good evening and thanks for coming to entertain us.
It's a pleasure, it's a real pleasure. And an honor.
Well, about 20 years ago, my wife, my family, my son and daughter, we went to saw you at a Hard Rock Cafe in Washington, D.C. for a pancake breakfast.
That must have been a day.
Well, I wanted to thank you because you actually called my 2-year daughter up to the edge of the stage and sang Father Christmas to her.
Did I really? There we are then.
But my real question is to jettison into today. I know you've been working with Steve Wilson from Porcupine Tree, No Man's, for all of y'all that are familiar with them, and remix some of the Crimson albums. Do you see going more in that vein and working with Steven on some other things?
Possibly. I think they're now discussing doing some more things with him, but I don't, to be honest with you, I don't have an awful lot to do with the remaking or repackaging of records. You know? I mean, I get sent them, they send it to me to approve, but I'm not really, you know, once I've made a record, I've made it. You know, and I feel that there's just not a real interest for me in the repackaged thing. I do, as I say, I do listen to them and I approve them and everything, but I think what you know, pissed me off really was that they kept reissuing the ELP catalogue, but it was always the same, but it was in a new box, you know. I just got fed up with that kind of routine, and hopefully these will be better because he is a very talented producer, and so you know, hopefully they'll be worth buying. But that's it really. Well, look, thank you very, very much for your lovely questions. It really was good to listen to you. You've got one at your door now. Go ahead then, what was it? What can I do?
This is a dream come true for me. I mean it with all of my heart and soul. I mean, all I have is all your CDs in my car. Even my little son, all he wants to do is hear you. And I, like you said, about people showing emotion. I get goosebumps when I hear your music. I really, really do.
Very tough. Very tough. Thank you very much.
I love you, buddy.
You too, man. God bless you.